My apologies, just trying to pull up my agenda here. Good morning, everyone. I would like to recognize that the area we call the Fraser Valley Regional District has been home to Indigenous peoples for generations. There are 31 communities with reserved lands in the FERD's jurisdiction and as many as 69 groups with interests in the area. We honor our commitment to collaboration, inclusion, and reconciliation in our work here today and call to order the July 10th Regional Corporate Services Committee meeting. First item, please.
Looking for approval of the addenda, and late items.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Moved by Director Facio, seconder, Director McConaughey. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next item.
Looking for a resolution to close the meeting.
We have a mover. Moved by Director Klutz, second Director Castle. All in favor? Motion's carried.
Okay, just give us a couple of minutes to set up the room.
All right, thank you. Reconvening the Regional Corporate Services Committee meeting of Thursday, July 10th, 2025.
Great. So the next item is 7.1, which is the Regional Industrial Lands Inventory Update. And we have a staff presentation this morning.
All right.
All right, so good morning. My name is Riley Smith. I'm a planner here at the FERD in the Strategic Planning and Initiatives Department. And today I'll be giving an update on our ongoing work on the Regional Industrial Lands Inventory. So before we dive into the details of the inventory itself, I'd just like to highlight where this work fits in within the broader set of economic initiatives that our department is tackling. So these initiatives, they build on the 2018 Clean Economy Study, which highlighted the region's strengths in moving towards a more sustainable and integrated economy. In April, we released the Regional Economic Review, providing context into the region's economy and labor force, while our ongoing work on the Regional Commercial Real Estate Market Overview is set to highlight rising price pressures. Together, these efforts inform the Regional Industrial Lands Inventory set to be released early next year. So just a brief overview of this presentation. First, I'll just mention why an inventory matters, how we're building on existing work. I'll then discuss our approach, our methodology, show some mapping examples, and then finish off with our current progress and next steps. So to understand why an inventory matters, we first need to understand why industrial land is important. The FERD's economy is strongly rooted in goods-producing sectors such as construction, manufacturing, transportation, and warehousing, as well as growing agri-food and agri-tech sectors, all of which rely heavily on industrial land. The activities occurring on and those supported by these lands contribute significantly to local employment and to the region's overall gross domestic product. In a recent economic study, Metro Vancouver found that while industrial land represented just 4% of the region's total land base, it supported 22% of the region's jobs, contributed 30% to the region's overall GDP, and generated over $8 billion in tax revenue. So the shortage of industrial land is a lower mainland issue. Metro Vancouver anticipates that its land supply will be effectively absorbed sometime around 2030. As demand continues to outpace supply, development pressure is increasingly shifting east into the Fraser Valley. These images from the Clearbrook area in Abbotsford show how industrial lands in the region are becoming increasingly built out. Between 2017 and 2023, much of the available land within the OCP designated area has been used up, whether for building, storage, or for other uses. Without an accurate inventory, we have no clear way to track how much land is being developed or how quickly. So an inventory is able to identify the location, available supply, and current uses, including where non-industrial activities are taking place. With a repeatable methodology, we're able to monitor change in land use over time. This provides us with a baseline to support policy evaluation and land use planning, while strengthening advocacy and decision-making by providing evidence-based data. The methodology for this inventory is centered in early work conducted by FRED staff as part of the RGS background analysis. Our definitions and classifications of industrial uses mirror those used in Abbotsford's 2017 industrial land capacity analysis and Metro Vancouver's 2020 regional industrial lands inventory. Adopting a similar approach allows for high-level comparisons and ensures that the inventory is grounded in already established regional methodologies. So industrial land in this inventory is defined as areas that are either designated in the local OCP as industrial, zoned in the local bylaw, or both. Essentially, we're taking all of the industrial OCP designated area, all of the industrial zoned areas, and combining that information on a parcel by parcel basis. This allows us to use municipal designation and zoning to locate where industrial lands are located across the region. So because this inventory relies on spatial data, we developed a series of in-house models using Esri's ArcGIS software to streamline data processing and reduce manual effort. This particular model brings together all of the municipal zoning and OCP inputs shown in blue on the left and runs them through a series of steps to identify and extract industrial land. This process is semi-automatic and once set up can go from raw inputs to identified land in just a few minutes. These tools also ensure that the process is repeatable and consistent, making it easier to update the inventory as new data becomes available. So in this inventory, we assess industrial land based on two key metrics. The first is policy alignment. That is, whether a site is designated in the OCP as industrial, zoned as industrial, or both. This map illustrates how this varies across the region. Parcels shown in orange are both designated and zoned. Those in green are only zoned, and while those in blue are only designated. Understanding this alignment helps us evaluate how protected a site is from conversion to other uses and where redevelopment may be more or less likely to occur. For example, a site that is both designated and zoned is more likely to remain industrial compared to one that is only zoned, while a site that is designated but not zoned could suggest where future redevelopment may occur. So after identifying industrial designation zoning, we then assess the site for actual land use or what the property is currently being used for. These categories draw from those in related inventories and are determined using information from BC Assessment with visual verification where needed. So in this inventory, there are 7 categories we are using. Land intensive refers mostly to outdoor-oriented uses such as storage yards, trucking, and resource processing. Building intensive industrial includes indoor dominant uses such as manufacturing, warehousing, and mixed industrial commercial buildings. Large-scale infrastructure and transportation includes sites used for oil storage, utilities, and transit operations. Commercial covers retail, offices, and other non-industrial uses operating on industrial land. And we have also identified sites used for agriculture, residential, and those that appear vacant, unimproved, and unused. So this map shows a preliminary example of how actual land use is mapped across an industrial area. Each color represents a different use. For example, purple for building intensive, brown for land intensive, tan for agriculture, yellow for residential, and light green for vacant. You can also start to see how detailed this inventory is with actual use identified on a parcel by parcel basis. This level of analysis illustrates the complexity of industrial lands today, showing where land is fully developed, where non-industrial uses may be occurring, and where vacant or potentially redevelopable land may still exist. So the final report of this inventory is intended to provide a high-level snapshot of industrial lands from a regional perspective, while providing detailed breakdowns for the FRD's member municipalities and electoral areas. It will present total figures for developed and vacant lands, further categorized by OCP designation and zoning, actual land use, and average site size. The report will also include a description of the methodology, highlight key findings, and feature detailed maps. So, as far as our progress, the bulk of the GIS work is largely complete, and initial results are currently under review. We've also been developing a draft methodology, refining map outputs, and have created a detailed procedural guide for internal use. The next step is to engage with municipal staff to review draft results and ensure that the objectives methodology, and the preliminary findings accurately reflect the industrial land context in each municipality. These conversations will also help us identify any local nuances and understand how OCP updates may inform our inventory. So in conclusion, this inventory provides a high-level region-wide snapshot of industrial lands. Land is identified based on existing OCP designations and zoning bylaws, utilizing a consistent and repeatable GIS-based methodology. Ultimately, this work establishes a baseline for future analysis, planning, and policy, and provides the opportunity to collaborate with provincial agencies with the goal of protecting and expanding industrial land. So building on this foundation, some examples of future initiatives may include a broader employment lands inventory, regional land supply and demand forecasting, identifying potential expansion opportunities, including an assessment of potential brownfield sites, conducting an economic impact analysis, or monitoring land use change over time. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great work. Thank you very much. Dr. Horn.
Thank you. I confess that I really don't know enough about this area within the regional districts domain. So I have 3 questions and I'm hoping you can help me to understand them. I'll tell you that I'm asking them from a lens of wondering what we get out of doing this municipally and regionally. So that's sort of the larger question behind everything. I guess my first question is, who's the end user or consumer of this information? You've talked about forecasting, but I think we are doing that largely at our municipal level already. Is this something where, for example, an enterprise might come into the regional district office and say, or look through our website and say, how us to find potential locations within the region? And do we have evidence that that is something people are actually looking for? So that's my first question.
Through the chair, Director Horn, I would just say that this inventory sort of provides this high-level overview, regional perspective of industrial lands. So we're identifying just the location, the available supply, and the current uses. I think that it would be useful for municipalities to use potentially in their policy planning. And it could also be useful as a tool for advocacy and collaborating with provincial agencies.
Thank you. I see the value from an advocacy perspective. I think, well, I'll ask my second question. My second question is, you've identified in your second to last slide that it would help us to identify some sites that are, for example, no, you can go back one. I meant, there we go. Regional land supply and demand, identifying potential expansion opportunities, including brownfield sites. So it seems to me there's a bit of a blind spot for us in the sense that we don't necessarily know exactly what exists outside of municipal boundaries with potential for development, industrial development. Is the aim here to identify some places in those areas as well that are not yet either zoned or OCP'd as industrial locations, but worth exploring? Would that include looking at First Nations lands? So I'll pause there.
Through the chair, Director Horn, yeah, I think that this inventory provides the foundation or the baseline of industrial lands as they exist now. And then certainly, I think all of these initiatives that we've listed here are potential routes or opportunities that we could, expand our work and what we've done here. I don't know if my manager, Allison Stewart, has anything to add to that.
Yeah, through the chair. I think it's important to recognize that the industrial land inventory is actually a key policy within the regional growth strategy and the board's strategic plan. So we are undertaking our work based on that direction. And it is really meant to have an sort of a regional lens. Not all municipalities have the capacity to undertake this work. So we're providing support in that way. And we're providing support even to some of the larger municipalities in terms of, they've done work in the past, and this is just we're able to do this work rather than them having to spend time working on this when they have other issues that they're having to address. So we're providing this as a regional service in a way of showing the nature of industrial land in the region. So we can, when we're talking to the province, we can use this one source of information as the basis of any sort of lobbying effort or anything like that. Everyone's methodologies can be different. This provides just an overall same sort of methodology and addresses municipalities and also some of the EAs as well, which have industrial land. So it really is providing that overall view. And in light of Metro Vancouver's inventory, because it's similar to Metro Vancouver, we can provide a Lower Mainland view of the issue. So it sort of has this regional context just from its as an issue.
Madam Chair, I'd say that those are helpful pieces of information. I'm not sure they quite answered my question, so perhaps I'll leave my question as a rhetorical one, as a statement, and I'll add one more. And it's really my effort here with these comments and questions is to ensure that instead of duplication, we're adding value. I recognize, in fact, I was a proponent of this being included in the RGS for the reasons that you've just spoken about, Ms. Stewart. So I completely agree. I just want to make sure that rather than duplicating what's happening in the 3 largest municipalities, we're really telling the provincial government, the federal government, economic development organizations, and private enterprise how they can develop in our area in a way that helps us to create a more robust local economy, gets people out of commuting, saves us on all that infrastructure cost, saves us on the airshed impacts, all of the rest of it. So my question there, just to turn it into a comment, was: can we include an examination of lands that might have other potential uses that are currently not seen? And can we seek input from First Nations that might be doing similarly? And then my last question, and I'll turn it into a comment as well, is we have found in Mission that for too long we assumed that all industrial lands needed to be proximal to a highway, proximal to a railroad, proximal to a river with a working port or warehouse or wharf, I should say. And what we've come to understand now is that there are lots of industrial activities that can happen on unserviced land, especially if what you need is timber and you're close to timber, or gravel that you can add value to. And so I would love to see if it's within the scope of our capacity here, that not only do we have a list of lands, but of their distinct features, that when people want to look regionally around each of our staff departments, or whether they're exploring coming with an enterprise to our region, and be able to see a fairly quick inventory of where they might go if they're trying to balance the cost of a serviced piece of land, for example, versus one that doesn't necessarily have water and sewer or access directly to a highway. I'll leave those as comments, and thank you for your answers.
Okay, can I just to clarify, I feel like staff are defending why we're doing this work, but this was board direction. This piece in particular about these industrial lands was something in particular that I recall a conversation around this board. They wanted this work done so that we could do it on a regional basis. So it was board direction. This isn't a staff initiative in particular.
Madam Chair, if I could just quickly respond. As I said, I understand that, and I was actually a proponent for us including in a regional growth strategy. I just want to make sure that the rationale that I had in my mind, and I think maybe others, is the reason that we're adding some value that we currently don't have.
Okay, thanks. Director Siemens.
Thank you. I really welcome this report, and thank you for your work, you and Ms. Stewart. I know that this is a key component from the city's perspective, and maybe this is, yeah, I can say it. I think for too long we've competed as large municipalities, especially with one another, and I think sometimes to our own detriment, because there's industries that need border access. There's industries that might be better off in Chilliwack because the market is going to be more in the interior, or there's going to be closer to their agriculture that they have here. There's going to be other components that are going to need airside And I think what happens is when we start to compete with each other, we don't see the bigger picture. And I think that I think we're at a really good moment in time where we're all facing the same pressures. And if we can work together, and I would like to see our chambers of commerce, I know that they're doing a more of a regional perspective. I know that our university is involved in a regional perspective. And this is a real challenge. Housing targets is the big issue on everybody's mind, and that seems to be the focus. But quite frankly, housing affordability is our biggest challenge when it comes to our residents. Part of that is, where do they work? And when I see that freeway plugged constantly, not only is the $65 billion and growing coming out of, back and forth on that freeway, sitting there is not helpful. But when I take a look at the amount of traffic now, just taking people to and from work, that's on that freeway, it's really challenging. So I think if we can, I think long term, I think this gives us a better understanding of where those jobs need to be. But the advocacy component, the provincial government really hasn't turned its mind to this to the degree that it should. And it's the JEDI ministry is now going to be looking at a provincial industrial land survey. And I think this will feed really well into that. But I think it really does give us the opportunity to take a look at things in a more proactive way, because let's face it, the housing targets, that's reactive, and when you have a reactive component to it, it's causing us all sorts of challenges in our municipalities. But if we don't pay attention, this is going to be, I would say it's already a bit of a crisis, but it's going to be a looming, much worse crisis if we don't get out in front of it. And so I think the advocacy that we can put towards this with, and I think working regionally, because let's face it, right now, we don't have, in our region, we don't have anybody on the government side. And I think if we can show a business case why this is vitally important, and we are, regardless of whether we have the political clout, we have the economic clout. We are an economic driver and merging into a much larger economic force. And I think we need to get that on the radar. So I think this will give us that ability to come with a business case to the province for them to understand the challenges.
Okay, Director Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not feeling terribly confident that I've got a good understanding of this, but it seems to me that what we've asked staff to do here is to define the existing industrial land base. And I'm getting the sense that maybe some of the directors would like to become more of an exploratory exercise to where we might expand into. And that would seem like a very different process and job, and something that could become very complicated. But that's, maybe I'm offside here and don't really have a good understanding of the process.
Okay. Anyone else? No? All right. I don't think we need a motion to receive. We'll just move on to it. And thank you very much for your work and your presentation. Next item.
8.1 is the draft Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting minutes of June 5th, 2025.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, Director Facio, do we have a seconder? Okay, Director Wardenberg, I'll pick on you. You were voluntold. All in favor? Motion's carried. Next item.
9.1 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Indemnification Bylaw, number 1798.
We have a mover. Director Clute, seconder, Director McConick. See no comments. All in favor? None opposed. Motion's carried. Next item.
9.2 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Sub-Regional Animal Control Service Area Amendment Bylaw, number 1797.
Sorry, moved by Director Horn. We have a seconder. Director Siemens. Director Horn.
Thank you to staff for doing this. I just wanted to ask a few questions, and they may not be answerable today, but when we get to regular board, perhaps we'll have the answer. If I understand the report correctly, most of the service areas are apportioned using this similar approach. Did I understand that correctly from the report?
Go ahead, Ms. Barker.
Yes, I'll let Beth certainly answer this, but yes, my understanding is that the majority of our regional services, such as air quality or mosquito control, are done so in a manner that we are recommending here.
Okay, thank you. Second, I really appreciate the reports that we've had on this previously, but I didn't note, I was not able to find evidence of sort of how long the disparity has been going on at the level it's at. And I'm trying to get sort of a final number. By my quick math, it's in the neighborhood of $800,000 or so that Mission has over the years paid beyond its proportion. But I just wondered whether or not, again, you probably don't have that here today, but if we can have that information, that would be helpful. And then finally, again, this is one that I tuned in to watch the meeting that was handled by my alternate, Councillor Davies. I watched the video afterwards, and I was aware there were some questions asked that evening about process. And I just wanted to ask that we have more clarity on that. I'm not entirely, I don't remember us doing something like this before. And I know the answer was given that a board resolution would need to then go to, I think, local governments, and that all the local governments need to agree, and then it would, and so I'm not sure that that's accurate, and I just wanted to double check it. So Ms. Kinnaman, I don't know if you have an answer for that.
Sure, yes, through the chair to Director Horn. So in this instance, we need to get municipal consent. So if this is approved by the board this month, it will then go to each of the participating councils for their consideration. My understanding is that in order to make a change, you need a 2/3 majority on that. So in this case, just looking at our corporate officer and finance, we have 5 participating municipalities. That would be 3 out of 5 that would have to agree. And then after that, it would have to go to the inspector of municipalities, and then it would come back to the board for adoption.
Okay, thank you. I would probably ask that question again at the regular board, just because it's somewhat different than what was heard. And I know that staff were kind of hit with that question in the moment. So I'm glad to see this being brought forward. I think our community has some real concerns about sustainability because whatever formula is looked at, Mission is currently paying anywhere from $90,000 to $105,000 annually more than any formula that we would typically use would suggest is accurate. And I know, we have a very good relationship with Abbotsford and share a lot of services with that community: water, sewer, much of our transit, recycling, garbage. And so a lot of that has been going on for decades. And we understand the goodwill and partnership that goes on to assume those realities, to have those equities. And I think this fits in that same space. So I'm eager for us to move forward, because I think this is critical to goodwill and other partnerships within our region. The other thing I'll add is that I believe we should incorporate in really any service area that is outside of the sort of the standard, that we're looking at a mechanism for review. That should be a policy ingredient in just about every program we're undertaking. And I would just ask that I'll speak with the CAO offline about how we might bring something policy-wise that looks at that as a separate item. But I do think it is especially important when we're taking on something that was as new or novel as this was in 2013. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Siemens.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that, how this all came to be was what rather kind of a twisting story. So I can see how it ended up where it's at. And I do agree that I think we need to get it back to a more equitable component. So I think, the other, I tend to like to use the user pay-ish way of doing things, but I think at the same time, it's well documented in this report that the challenges with that. So I think that, when I look at the method that is being proposed here with the converted assessment, it does fairly close to what the usage is overall. But I do think that being fair and equitable is got to be one of the key components here. So I think this achieves that. So I'm hoping that this goes forward, because I think in acting in good faith, I'm always very supportive of Mission paying more. However, I also know that sometimes it goes the other way, and I need them to be being fair with us as well. So I think that this is reasonable, and I do just, if we do a review every 5 years, if that's built in, does that have to go through that same process of going back to the various municipalities, or if we can embed that in this policy, then that just becomes automatic?
Through the chair to Director Siemens, I'll be happy to discuss with the committee and board some ideas around service area review and bylaw review at a later date. But in terms of this process, the only time that we have to go back for municipal consent is if you're making a change. So certainly if we were going to have a review process at this level, this committee would decide, and then ultimately the board would decide if changes were needed, and only then would you have to go through all of those steps.
Right, I see no other speakers. All right, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? None carried. Motion's carried. Next item.
10.1 is our treasury update for the second quarter of 2025. Staff are happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, comments? No? All right, next item.
11.1.1 is launch of the Fraser Valley Agricultural Plastics Recycling Program. Again, an information item.
Director Horn?
I apologize for asking a question I've asked in the past. What is the mechanism for containers produced by nurseries, plastic disposable pots and so forth? And I know I've had that answered before, but if staff can remind me, I'd appreciate it.
Through the chair to Director Horn, we always like to answer those kinds of questions over and over, especially someone like me who regularly stands in front of her blue bin trying to figure out what goes where. So I will just turn to our staff, to Mr. Lilly, to comment.
Through the chair, to the best of my knowledge, there is no current program for those materials.
Okay, that is, I don't remember what the answer was, but I do remember having a better feeling about the answer the last time. Mr. Lilly, can I ask you that question again at the regular board, and just ask you to double check whether any municipalities are doing anything? The rationale being, if there is, we might want to try and expand those or steal those ideas elsewhere, but thank you.
Sorry, I was trying to look up our waste wizard in Abbotsford to see what it says, but I'll do that later. Okay. That's right. All right, this isn't for a motion, it's just for information. Seeing no other speakers, next item, please.
11.2.1 is Indigenous Service Canada referral for Chamal First Nation proposed addition to reserve in electoral area B.
Moved by Director Clute, or sorry, Director Horn. Oh, you want a second?
I'll second it.
Oh, it's my psychic abilities knew you were gonna.
Kind of look like.
That's right. Director Clute, did you want to speak?
Yeah,
to
just a quick comment. Staff noted in the report, it's challenging to support this at this time, as the future land uses are unknown and may not align with the official community plan land use designation, but I fully support sending this forward for technical comments in order to meet that September 7th deadline.
All right. All in favor? And opposed? Motion's carried. Next item.
11.3.1 is BC Transit 2025 fare review for the Agassiz Harrison, Hope, and FVX services.
Do we have a mover? We need Director Dickey, seconded by Director McCahonick. We have a presentation. Do we have a presentation? No?
No, he's just
No.
there to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you attending. All in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Next item.
Moving down to reports by directors.
And sorry, I'm still trying to figure out what we do with plant pots. It's not. Director Fazio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick update this coming weekend. The Festival of the Arts commences in Harrison Hot Springs on Saturday. 46 years it's been operating, so it's a 10-day event. So come down, and the weekends we have all the markets out on the beach walkway there. And every evening is the entertainment free of charge, but you are optional if you wish to obtain a festival pin for $5 this year to support these three concerts. And those that wish to watch the concerts in the Memorial Hall, look up their website and you can book your tickets through there. So hope to see you down in Harrison. Thank you.
Anyone else? Director McMahon?
Thank you. Just a quick update on my advocacy efforts on behalf of the residents impacted by the 2021 atmospheric river event. So I've met with the residents. I continue to meet with them. Our MLA, Warbus, has expressed interest and has actually come on side and is helping with the advocacy efforts. And so yesterday, we met with the Ministry of Transportation and actually had Ms. Kinnaman and Mr. Daniluz, as well as the MLA. She asked to attend as well, and walked away. We had some good questions to ask, and I just wanted to really make mention that I actually had a migraine during that meeting, and Mr. Daniluz did an outstanding job of navigating his way through and asking the right questions so that they will be coming back to us with thresholds on when they purchase houses or properties, when there's dangers to roads, and what their thresholds for risk assessment, and that is. So, and we still have the Vancouver Sun, Gordon Hoekstra is still pretty invested in following the story. So I was able to attend the Climate Disaster Project play. It was very interesting. And so we're just really trying to work on behalf of the residents and keeping the situation in the public eye and keeping the awareness going. And it seems to be working. And I'm happy to report that our stakeholders, Rural Homeless Group, we have a new co-chair, Grant Flores, with the RCMP, and we had the most attendance that we've had probably since we started. So that's very promising. And I didn't get the numbers in time, but in the Chilliwack River Valley, our volunteer fire department's doing a stellar job, but their calls are up significantly year to date. So that's my report, and I just want to thank everyone who has, made supportive comments and helps put a little gas in the gas tank when you're really advocating for this long of a time. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Horn.
I think I just wanted to crow that I think I beat you in finding out that plant pots are recyclable in our system in Mission Abbotsford and can be picked up. So there you go.
What? Because I put in our waste wizard plant pot.
You can't pick them up. You can drop them off at our shared recycle site, and you can get them picked up if you live in the beautiful community of Mission.
So, Chair Ross, I was going to suggest, first of all, that you refuse those, then you could reuse them and repurpose them. But I also think that Ms. Barker had some comments about those pots that she was going to offer. I don't know if it was that the beautiful recycling Abbotsford Mission was going to accept them, but
I think it depends on your municipality. If your municipality through their curbside program accepts them as part of the Recycle BC, the paper and packaging extended producer responsibility program, then yes. Now, not all of them may. I'm not sure if we do here in the FERD in our limited curbside collection in area FB, sorry. So there are some differences, but certainly you can take them to a depot.
Yes, thank you. Yes, but this is a great opportunity for anybody who has absolutely nothing to do on a Thursday morning is watching this meeting. You can go to either of our websites or use Recycle Coach to find out. So yes, they are in fact pick upable in Mission and drop offable as long as you rinse them out.
Well, I appreciate that clarification, but I think our waste wizard in Abbotsford needs a little tweaking, because when I put that in, the answer was, please put old garden hoses in the garbage can. So we need to work on that.
Live testing of recycling knowledge. I know our environmental services team is delighted right now.
That's right. All right.
So moving down to public question period for items relevant to the agenda. We do not have any members of the public joining us here today in person, but we'll just turn things over to our Deputy Corporate Officer, Lauren Olenek.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. We do not have any members of the public online, and we have not received any written questions.
So looking for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Moved by Director Fazio, second Director Clute. All in favor? My motion's carried. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming, everyone.